Over to CI Web Group's website because I want to make sure that you've got a really clear pathway to be able to get additional training. Within our company, we want people to be as educated as possible. Most of the time when entrepreneurs specialize in a specific subject, it doesn't mean they're a subject matter expert at marketing a business. So the more education you have, the better, hands down. It'll make for better questions. It'll make for a happier experience. It'll allow you to prep and show up and suit up and be more prepared and engaged in the activity. The more engaged you are, the better the results. Ideally, everyone wants to push an easy button and just simply say, knock it out. However, no marketing company can guarantee promises that you're not committed to fulfill. No marketing company should care more about your business than you do. And no marketing company can randomly create your brand without your contribution. So, as much as we all, myself included, would like to have the little tap it, go away, and they just take care of it, it's not advised. Do we do that all the time? Do we have hundreds of customers that come to us and don't participate in anything and we build it without any participation? Absolutely. Absolutely. And as bland as it may be, it gets done. But again, is it advised? No. So education, education, education. Marketing your business is as important as delivering products and services. In fact, sometimes it's predecessor. So when you go to CI Web Group, we have under education, this whole section on education. Number one, we have training class or training calendar. 2, on-demand training. And then there's other types of training in here as well. If you need a specialty training and so forth, we are currently rebuilding an entire HVAC LMS learning management system as we speak. We're getting ready to launch that here in the next 3 months. So you'll still be able to get to that from this section, but it might look a little bit different than it does right now. My recommendation is register for as many trainings as you can because we live in a virtual space. If you register, we'll deliver it to you on demand and you can watch it whenever you want. Just register. All right, that being said, we're here to talk about WordPress. What is WordPress? It is essentially a content management system. Like the layers of a vehicle, it starts with a MySQL database, and then it has a WordPress content management system that's the next layer. And then the layer on top of that is the presentation layer, which is the design. So the way a lot of amateur or rookie design and or development companies will build a WordPress website is they will head over and say theme forest, and they'll jump over to themeforest.net and they will go hunting for templates, themes. These themes are built from companies and individuals all over the world. And they're posted online, such as Aveda, for example, for anywhere from 30 to 100 bucks. These are a license that you would purchase for the theme. Now, when you install the theme, it doesn't look like the design. In fact, for example, Aveda, as soon as you install this, a lot of office managers, they'll say, I'll build your website. I got this. I can buy a $60 theme off the internet. I can download a free WordPress. I can install it, and then boom, it's blank. There's nothing there. That's because it requires designers, developers, configuration in order to be able to lay out or design the website itself from a visual standpoint. Every one of these themes is built with various different kinds of functionality involved. So for Aveda, for example, this allows you to pre-configure a theme thousands of different ways. You have the ability to choose from massive amounts of templates and designs and layouts and so forth. So can you figure it out? Absolutely. The challenge with themes comes in really 3 different primary pieces. Number one, when you install it, it doesn't look like what you bought. So that's often frustrating because then you have to learn how to set up headers and footers and create body areas and sidebars and widgets and all the gadgets and gizmos within it, which that can be a little frustrating. Number two is most themes are designed to wow you on all the possibilities, all the functionality. So while you may only use 5% of what's included in the theme, kind of like investing in a CRM system that's too big for your britches at the moment, you may only use a small percentage of it. The rest of that code is still in the website, so it can make the website heavy. Weigh it down. There's a lot of code. It's a heavy website. It's a big website, even though you might only be using a small part. So it's not lean and clean and mean, which is what Google wants. It wants a lean, clean, and mean website with great content rich. So that is challenge number two. Challenge number three is theme builders make their money building themes, not necessarily supporting old technology. Technology is changing so rapidly, literally there are thousands and thousands of updates and changes, and that causes theme builders to simply build a new theme instead of support the old one in many instances. So a lot of times somebody can get into a theme and the theme developer stops supporting that theme. They start working on the new project. Now you might have bought a website or a theme 2 months ago that all of a sudden, after it has 10,000 downloads, is no longer supported. Once it's no longer supported, this is when hackers start sharing all the vulnerabilities. They start sharing how to hack the website. They start hijacking the website and using those themes as Trojan horses to attack other themes. Without scaring anybody, themes can turn into a really big nightmare, a big mess. So I'm telling you this because in 2006, when we first started building websites, that's what we did. We used themes. We bought them off the internet and they were inexpensive and we learned how to use them. And over a course of 2 to 4 years, also learned that that was probably one of the worst decisions we could make because we couldn't trust the reliability and the security of those themes, and they were really just bloatware, very heavy. Now, that being said, if you can get into an inexpensive website from a professional versus just installing it and attempting to go through this yourself, that is always going to be recommended. Always going to be recommended. But if you need to start with a theme, you're going to learn enough to be dangerous during this class. All right, so that gives you some examples. Now, about midway through this class, I'm going to invite on our Chief Technology Officer, and his name is Christini, and he's going to jump in, and we're going to get into the more complex elements of WordPress. We're going to dive into the things you really want to know, but also might come with a headache. Okay, so I'm going to take you over to metroheatandac.com. This is not a real company. This is a demo site that we build for training purposes, to demonstrate different things with our customers, to showcase different products and services, such as our text and live chat function, or our AI chatbot, or our online shopping system, or financing integration, and so forth. But this is not an actual company. So we're going to mess around with this site today. Don't worry about it. It's used for demos. We're not ruining any customer's website to be able to do this demonstration. Okay, so first and foremost, every website is built, basically it's like playing Tetris. All it is a bunch of squares and rectangles, different sizes. The entire header area of a website, this section up here, is referred to as a header. And headers may contain things such as your logo, primary call to actions, a click to call phone number, may include servicing the blank and surrounding areas. This is the most prominent information that you want to have displayed, should technically be in the header. And the right side of the header, on the right-hand side of your website, typically has the highest conversion ratios. So The mind, most people are right-handed. The mind tends to gravitate towards the right. So we want to utilize the right-hand side of your header in order to drive actions that are going to help you with conversion. So it might be log in, sign in, shop, apply online, request a quote, schedule service, get an estimate online, pricing online, free quote, free estimate. And if you're really trying to recruit somebody, it might be apply for jobs. Most of the time, that's going to be in the footer. So this header area is really important. Typically, you're going to have the logo over to the left-hand side. Don't go overboard with your logo. Remember that while the logo is important to you and the brand is important to you, consumers are really concerned about one thing: themselves. So while the brand is important to have integrated throughout the website, we also want to make sure that we don't overpower it. Sometimes they'll do requests, they want a really giant logo at the top. Slow it down. You've only got so much space above the fold. So everything above the fold is when you open up a website in a traditional browser, it's everything that shows within the screen without scrolling. So typically this needs to be able to show your customers who you are, what you do, where you do it, how to reach you, and what other people think about you. So usually some kind of a reviews element as well. So it may be that you say, check out our reviews online, or social media sites if you're primarily using social for reviews and so forth. All right, next you're gonna have navigation. So you don't want too many pieces of navigation, but you can get away with really 3 levels of navigation without it being too much. So you may have kind of your junk pages or your accessory pages, administrative pages on a top level navigation. So that might be home, about us. Under our about us, you might have our team, our mission, our vision, community support, and so forth. Next, you may include something such as payments or our service areas. You might add a careers area up there, maybe some resources such as troubleshooting, HVAC terminology, definitions pages, FAQs, links to your blog, stuff like that. So that's really what you can use this top level for. Next is going to be your main navigation. Main navigation should technically be what sticks. So I would want this section right here. If we are dragging the site down, I would want that area to be sticky versus just to scroll over. And that's something, if you have a website with us and you want to ask for that to be sticky after watching this, just send an email to help@ciwebgroup.com and our team will take care of that for you. So your main navigation is typically going to be your services. Now, while we're talking about WordPress, I'm also going to talk about SEO because you can absolutely destroy your SEO efforts with your website and vice versa. So part of the structure of your site really needs to be focused on consumers. How does a consumer respond when they get here? What is their initial feeling of the website when they get there? How easy is it for it to convert? What kind of funnels do you have built into the site for them to flow through or follow? What kind of call to actions do you have? Are you leaning towards more of a passive request, such as learn more? Or are you asking consumers to take action, such as shop online? That's one audience we need to be concerned about with the website. The second audience we need to be concerned about almost should be the first, which is Google, search engines, all search engines, but primarily Google. Google is just simply a robot that is crawling a website and quickly scanning for who you are, what you do, where you do it, how to reach you, what do people think about you, and it's placing each one of those individual pages inside a cataloging system similar to a filing cabinet. So there are 2 reasons why we're going to separate out, for example, AC and heating. Number 1 is it's a different product. Number 2 is it's a different time of year. It's a different need. It's a different search query. And when we merge these, if we put AC and heating on the same page, we're diluting the effort Imagine having a piece of paper and it said air conditioning and heating at the top of it, and you hand it to your receptionist and say, go file that so somebody can find it. Immediately, they're going to pause and say, do you want it in air conditioning or do you want it in heating? So try and avoid merging pages. If you have to because you have limited content or a limited budget, fine, that's fine. Do what you need to do while you need to do it, but make it your mission to get those pages separated out. So if you have to merge pages because you don't have content, installation and replacement would be the closest things to merge. Repair and service, tune-up and maintenance. You get my drift. Do like things similar. But remember, every page when merged also has less weight because we're separating those out. All right, next, we're going to dive into, well, actually, let me go through. Okay, so air conditioning, these are primaries. Heating, these are primaries. IAQ, we're missing pages on here. We don't have anything about UV lights. Very rarely are consumers going to go look for IAQ, but they will look for air filters, whole house air humidification, whole house air filtration, UV lights, and so forth. They will look for specific phrases. So if I want to truly sell IAQ services or products on my website, they need to have their own individual pages. Duck list, you'll see these are starting to be expanded. These are just sample pages that we've created in demos. If we were going to drill into an additional service, such as smart home services, or if you're offering solar installation, or if you're installing Tesla batteries, or if you're doing plumbing or electrical, this same thing has to occur for each one of the primary services. We need to identify what specifically is the consumer searching for, and then we need to dive in and make sure we have a full page of content for that particular service. For example, this should be empty. This is a placeholder page. This page does nothing for us, and if left too long, can actually hurt. So while you may have pages in your website that are placeholders because you had a good intention of writing content or buying content and so forth, just remember it's okay in the beginning to have those there. They might even show up on page 1 of Google, but eventually when Google starts crawling those pages and realizes no new content is being published to the site, no new content is being published to the page, these pages can actually reduce your domain authority and cause strong pages to derank. So the intent to have one page for every service you want to create, brilliant, do that. But you got to get content on those pages. All right, next, who we serve. You want to be cautious when you're building a website of having generic terms that could mean anything. You also want to be cautious of having generic terms that are more of a product versus a service. For example, if I look for air conditioner, what you're going to notice is, let me just shrink this down just a little bit. What you're going to notice is I'm now competing in with the likes of Amazon, Walmart, Home Depot, Ace Hardware, Home Electrical. Let's keep down, Home Depot. We've got Good Housekeeping. We have New York Times. We've got product reviews that are happening inside Top 10 Reviews, Tech Gear Lab, in review.com. All of these, this is where schematic markup or schematic data, schema, becomes wildly important. When you get into the product environment, companies are investing heavily in schematic markup, but Google is investing even more. And companies don't mind. Google is technically using schema to prevent consumers from ever getting to a product-based website. So when you go down the path of marketing for e-commerce-based transactions, i.e. products, remember, all bets off. Entirely different process, entirely different resources, entirely different strategy, entirely different competitors, entirely different budget, timelines, everything when it comes to product-based search terms or e-commerce. You're going to notice Lowe's, Walmart, again, drilling into individual products that are showing here. Best Buy, Amazon, Consumer Reporting, New York Times, Energy.com. So in this environment, you're dealing with some of the top big box retailers in the world, online stores, as well as energy companies that are now selling air conditioning systems as well as furnaces as a part of a low monthly payment in your electric bill. So when you are in a position where product-based search terms become important, or you're looking at your website and you start noticing that you have your pages are more geared towards products versus services, be very, very careful that you have a different level of expertise, a different level of marketing team that is helping you with those types of services or those types of searches. The second I add installation, my search terms are going to differ. So no longer am I going to have Google competing with me for ads. I'm no longer going to have products. I still have Home Depot, Home Advisor, and then we get into some actual blog content that is geared towards air conditioner installation. I'm going to change this to Cypress, Texas. And we're going to drill down even further. Again, no products. Now it's a local search. So I'm starting to get actual local HVAC companies. Then you're going to get the Yelp, the Home Advisor. And now you're actually dealing with heating and air conditioning companies who provide local services to local communities. So very important. If you have a big budget and a lot of time and you want to fully go after the e-commerce environment, then your website can be structured with products. If you have a smaller budget and you're focused on a local community, remember, bigger is not better. You got to nail that down and be super hyper focused on a service you want to sell. Pick one and invest everything in it. Pick 5 and invest everything in it. For example, AC repair, heater service, heater installation, heater maintenance, or furnace, depending on where you're at, and air conditioner installation and maintenance. So you'll have work out 5 search terms. Whatever the most highly searched search terms, most frequent number of searches, pick one city that has the highest volume of search terms, put $400 a month, $300 a month into content and SEO, and focus on getting your phone to ring for just that. Literally, on your website, you might not have all of this. So your website might not be constructed with everything that I'm going to show you on here, or all the ideas, because remember, bigger is not better. It's not about building a website. That's not what this whole program is about. It's called Wordpress training. It is about building a tool that generates cash flow for your company. It is not about building a website. It is about building a tool which generates cash flow for your business. So we'll learn how to use the site while we're in the process of that. When I was talking about generic terms, if you have an area on the site and it says residential, commercial, new construction, if I type in the word, whatever the page title is, residential, and hit enter, first it's going to show me the dictionary. Then it's going into Webster's Dictionary, dictionary.com, and Wikipedia, vocabulary.com. Anytime you're using a generic term that can be used or seen as 500 different ways. If I use the word or title a page and call it installation, I can install grass. I can install kitchen countertops. I can install hardwood floors. I can install a new carburetor. I can install, you get my drift. Very, very generic. So we want to avoid terms such as residential, installation, replacement, even the term financing. A lot of times I'll go to a dealer's website and I'll look at the pages called financing, and notice I'm on LendingTree. I've got the field of study financing. I have small business loans, Investopedia, consumer financing, affirm.com, dictionary.com, Navient. I got school loans, home loans, car loans, personal loans. So the term financing on your website is not a strong term for search. So will a consumer understand if they're looking for a new air conditioner to click on the financing tab? Absolutely. But here's the reality. If the website is only built for consumers, how are they going to find it if Google doesn't put it in the right drawer? If you don't care about SEO, if that's not part of your guide, just remember, you're building an expensive business card that you need to hand out. If you build this website and you don't invest in content and SEO, those two things, then you are investing in an expensive business card in which you need to hand out to people, because Google can't file it without all of the metadata, links, and so forth that's necessary, without a high domain authority. All right, promotions. Same thing with promotions. Remember, if I type the word promotions into Google, and it's important to understand how search engines work to build a website, otherwise what's the point? Like I said, expensive business card. Type in the word promotions, what do I get? Look at this number right here. And remember this, in order for you to make any money, you need to be in the top 10 of whatever this number is. That's not a good day. That's not okay. We don't want to fight that battle. If I say air conditioner promotions, I'm going to go straight into the majority of your manufacturers. A few, look at, that's our client, that's our client. I love that. So if I go into air conditioner installation, notice this number continue to change. I'm going to go new air conditioner installation. Notice the number continue to change. Now let's go home. I'm going to look in Cypress, Texas. Now I need to be in the top 10 of 2.3 million versus billion pages. So think very carefully about the structure of what you want to get found for and the structure of Google. So when you're building your website to make money, not just to build a website. You got to know SEO to build a website. At least enough about how search engines work and file information. All right, that's that. So structure when it comes to the website, wildly important. Keep Google top of mind the entire time you're building a website. Themes, try and stay away from the big old clunky themes for $60 that are unsupported, unsecure, and heavy. They're weighted down. Too much code, not enough use of that code. And make sure that it's on a regular maintenance plan, which we'll talk about later. So we're going to dive in. This area right here, this should be a dynamic area that you change on a regular basis. It's also referred to as a slider. So sliders give you the ability to modify your communication based on what season it is, what promotions you're running, what time of the year it is, what's happening in your area from a weather standpoint. If you are in Washington, California, or Oregon right now, you should be talking about indoor air quality. And so depending on when you watch this video, right now there's fires everywhere. It's smoke. IAQ is the worst in the entire world right now. So right now, you should be talking about that. If you're sitting in New Orleans or Florida or Southern Texas, then you should be addressing the fact there's 5 hurricanes headed that way and what people can do to prepare or take care of their system, or how to reserve time on your list in advance. There are natural events that are going to occur. If you're having a heat wave, Arizona is 114 degrees. You guys should have everything related to emergency air conditioning repairs sitting right at the front of that site. This area right here doesn't require a lot of effort in order to be able to modify this. This is a single picture, which you guys can get graphics. Either you can take them with a high quality camera, a high quality camera yourself. You can take local photos. You guys can grab those images yourself, or you can go to iStock Photo and you can choose from images. They've got tons of photos and illustrations and so forth, or you can subscribe and you can pay a web company like us to do it. Doesn't matter how you do it, it's gotta get done. Okay, it is a combination of a picture, a little bit of code, which you'll see the code is what is allowing the picture to fade in and fade out. You're gonna have a short heading. So the heading might say, for example, specializing in creating high comfort, high-tech homes. If these guys installed Tesla batteries or installed solar panels, in addition to that, they may have one slide for installation of Tesla batteries. They may have one slide for air conditioning repair because it's 100 degrees outside. And they might have one slide for how to reduce particulates in the air because we're in the middle of a pandemic and coronavirus is a concern. There is always something that is relative to your business that we should have as a part of your design, and it should be relative to the time. When it's Christmas, we need to change it to Christmas. When it's October, we need to make it pink and have breast cancer awareness month, put on a ribbon. All of these things are easy to do. I'm going to show you another way to create sliders. We're going to dive in right here, and I'm going to take you over to a tool called Canva. Canva is an inexpensive way to build graphics designs. If you don't want to pay a web company, you don't want to pay a graphics designer, you guys can do these yourselves. Once you create an account, simply click on create a design, and you're going to see there are tons of different options. So for example, Facebook cover photos, you can get the exact dimensions. You'll notice when I hover over these, it's going to show what the dimensions or pixel dimensions are. Ask your web company, what are the dimensions of my slider? Tell them you're gonna create a slider and you're gonna send it to them and have them change it out. So you may grab, for example, I'm gonna do a cover photo, which this is a good slide. It's going to give you lots of different options over here for different kinds of graphics and different kinds of designs. You can play with these if you want, or you can create your own from scratch. So remember, a website is just Tetris. What color you paint the blocks and what you put in the blocks, that's design and content. They're not the same thing. A website, WordPress, is just a game of Tetris. It's blocks, squares, and rectangles. What you put in the squares and rectangles is content, pictures, images, infographics, text. So building a website, we got to have something. For example, if we wanted to say virtual appointments. Oh my gosh. .com/Zoom. So for example, I might say virtual appointments available, let's connect on Zoom, and there's that. If I don't like this graphic, I can delete that graphic. You can come over here to the photos area. You can sort through hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of photos. So I'm gonna say we'll use something like this. For example, I'm gonna position it, move it backwards, and put it to the back. And I'm gonna take this entire container suite and move it over here. And boom. Okay, other things you guys can do, there are elements inside of here. So let's say I don't want this image, I wanna add a picture and I wanna make the picture a circle. I wanna break up some of those Tetris blocks and squares. I wanna add a picture, and inside that picture, I'm gonna grab a photo, and for this one, I would like some coffee. So I'm gonna put coffee in here, and then I wanna add an element, and I'm going to add a sticker. I want something moving. So I'm gonna put this little smiley squishy dude over here, and I'm gonna put him right there. For example, for you guys on this could be your new slider. You would simply either share it with your company. You can grab a link to view. You can use it as a template, or you can click on download and you can choose how you want to download it. So for this one, you might download it as a PNG. which is a transparent image, or because this has movement in it, you would download it as a GIF. Download this graphic, which I would never use this graphic. Let me just point that out. This is just purely for demo. Hi, Chris. Thank you for joining.
Hello, hello.
All right, I'm showing how to cheat and make sliders right now to everybody that's on here. So here's a quick example of how to cheat. You can make a slider in 2 minutes. There is no reason that we shouldn't be changing out elements on the website to represent what's happening in your area. So Chris, to bring you up to speed, and for everybody that's on here or watching later, Chris is our Chief Technology Officer, Head of Marketing. This guy knows code, digital, and marketing better than about anybody that I know. So what we're talking about right now is just the slider area, and the reason that companies should be paying attention to modifying this section, which is designed to change. So we've talked about hurricanes and having something related to preparing for hurricane and natural disasters. We've talked about if you're in California or Oregon or Washington, we should have something related to IAQ. That if you are in a high-tech area in the Bay Area and the majority of your drivers have Teslas and you install Tesla batteries in garages, that you should have a slide on there for Tesla battery installation. But what are your thoughts on how frequently a website should change when it comes to the design and or colors? If it's going pink for Breast Cancer Awareness Month, or what do you do in Christmas compared to the middle of summer? How closely should the design match the season? What you think, Chris?
I think it's 100% on point. You know, just looking at the visitor journey, you've got 4 steps: establish relevance, establish trust and authority, educate about services and product, and offer to help. The slider definitely takes care of all of those. It's top of fold. And so very impactful on what kind of messaging you can get through in the 3.5 seconds you have to grab their attention.
Fantastic. What kind of call to actions would you drop into the slider? Passive or active? Do you want them to learn more or take action, like shop now?
So looking at buyer mindset, it depends on your style of marketing, to be frank. So if you're doing a lot of Google marketing, that means you're top of mind, which means somebody has a problem. So you want to be able to offer a very strong call to action above the fold, typically in service industry.
And how frequently is too much as far as changing the slider design? Is there such thing as too much in your mind?
Negative. Every time you make a change, Google's crawler sees that as a crawl update, and it decreases your crawl interval, which is a metric that chooses where you get placed on the search engine result page. More the merrier. Same thing with coming up with content updates and publications.
Fantastic. All right, you guys. So that kind of gives you a little bit of an idea about this slider. It's not here for the heck of it. It doesn't rotate just for the heck of it. We put that there because your business needs to speak to the consumers based on what's happening in your area, with the weather, with your community, with your products, with promotions, with new services, with new service areas. If you're opening up a new branch, if your company just had a baby or a mascot, I mean, and literally get personal, use these, and all it takes is a website administrator. You guys can get in and make changes to these sliders on your own if you have a little bit of tech savviness. But literally, it's a picture, a heading, a small description, small, less than 140 characters, and a call to action. What do you want them to do? Do you want them to learn, click, shop, buy, sign up, schedule, request, apply? Those are your action items. What do you want them to do? And if you're being more passive, you want them to read an article, it's learn more, read more, listen to our story, hear our story, watch the video. There's tons of different action items you can take, some more passive, some more aggressive. All right.
On the pathway that you're wanting to take, if you're taking a more passive pathway, what these call to actions allow you to do is what's referred to commonly as audience segmentation. So you get to understand the audience's mindset based on their first click interaction. Typically, you'll get, for an interested prospect on your site, you'll typically get 3 to 4 interactions. keep this in mind when designing your funnels and your pathways and your user journeys experience.
Speaking of user journeys and experience, and speaking of funnels, having some kind of a section on there that clearly outlines the type of services. And you guys, these can change. So you can swap these out, you can reorder them depending on what needs to take more preferential treatment on the home page of a website. So when you're designing the layout of your site, your home page is going to be entirely different than all of the interior pages that you have. For now, that's where the majority of your budget goes, is to homepage design and development. Really making sure that the homepage is strong, it's very custom, it has clear call to actions, clear use of content, containers, and so forth. Now, that being said, technically, over time, you want every page on your website to be like your homepage. All web companies are dealing with a limited budget. So they put most of their emphasis and effort on the front of their store, right? And then on the interior store, all the aisles look exactly the same. All the aisles have certain things. They all have a shelf that's 9 feet tall. They all look exactly the same. Okay, if you built a gorgeous front store for every service you had, if you had one website that just concentrated on air conditioning, and man, that thing was hot, gorgeous, inside and out. Same thing for heating, same thing. I mean, at that point, you would have sales pages and for each of the services you want to sell. Technically, your homepage is not necessarily always your front door to your website. In fact, if you have a strong SEO and SEM and pay-per-click plan, your homepage is probably rarely the front door to your website. So let's talk about, Chris, the body container. So we've covered the header. We went into navigation, main navigation, top navigation, slider area, which should be dynamic, and then talk about the body of the home page of a website. In your mind, what are the most important elements of the body of the home page of the site?
For really, scrolling is about user behavior. You look at the top 2 personality profiles, and you can use Myers-Briggs, DISC, Social Styles by Traycom, any of the personality profiling that will kind of tell you the conscientious buyer is the comparer, the person that's going to be thinking before they make a decision. They're the ones that's going to scroll all the way to the bottom of the page. So laying out the design to perform with that behavior, whether it be on a mobile device and somebody who thumbs to the bottom, or because 95% of the people who make it 70% down the page will make it 100% down the page. So offering a clear, clean call to action towards the bottom is a great way to kind of hamburger up that the design. Through the middle of the page, your elements need to provide trust and educate them on services. And providing trust can be through trust indicators. It can be through BBB logos, so the number of vehicles you have, the number of happy customers you have, your ratings, anything to continue to build the confidence in the buyer that you're the right person to talk to, because they're scrolling down your page for a reason.
Absolutely. All right, you guys. So when it comes to the front of your site, just remember this. Whatever level of effort went into the front of the site, eventually you need to have the same level of effort on each individual page, i.e. service and or product you want to sell, throughout the entire website. Because ideally, remember in the beginning of this webinar, I talked about we don't want to build a website. We want to build a tool that gives you the ability, when coupled with content marketing, SEO, pay-per-click, SEM, a tool that generates revenue, a tool that helps you get found by consumers looking for the products you want to buy in the cities, or the products you want to sell in the cities that you're willing to serve. So I don't just want a website, which means if I have a marketing team that is focused on getting an individual interior page to the front of Google, then I need to care about it as much as I do the homepage. We
And
call
there's
that a
ways to
result.
prioritize the effort with that. One of the key indicators, almost like a health indicator, that your interior pages are ugly and bad, and I like to call them secondary interaction pages, is every step that the user takes down a pathway, they're wanting the path to get better and brighter, not duller and uglier. And so the metric that we pay attention to is called the bounce rate. When people click on a page, even on the home page or first page they see off the search result, if they're Googling for AC maintenance and the page says AC repair, you lack that mental continuity required to let them know that what they're looking for is relevant. And there's a subconscious understanding to the experience of walking in as well, one that people don't consciously evaluate. But as they do walk through the experience, if the second, it's kind of like first date, second date. If the second date isn't anywhere close to on par to the first, you're not going on the third. And we consider user interactions very similar.
Absolutely. I just had a lot of things run through my mind with that one. So, all right, you guys. So, this can start to get overwhelming at times, and what I would recommend or say is building a website is not a project at all. It is not a start date and an end date and woohoo, I'm done. It doesn't work like that. Your website is a store that represents your company. It's a living being. It represents you. Your website is your sales team. Your website is your customer service team. Your website is your technical support team. Your website is your marketing team. Your website can be your operations team. Your website can be your training team. Your website is a living being that is, if used properly, can be a tool that can replace humans in many different areas of your business. So it's not a project. It's a tool to help you get somewhere, like a car. You're not going to put a car in the front of your yard like a statue and pretend like, oh, I just bought it. It looks good. Just leave it. It's nice. Wash it every once in a while. You're going to drive it. So this thing, this website, this tool, you need to drive it. You need to use it. It can't just sit stationary. It's got to be driven.
Forbes listed a website as one of the top investments, as well as your home and other products that you wouldn't really consider, or most people would think of a website as being an investment, but it does offer the longest ROI. And so just like any other investments, you can keep adding to that baseline principle so you can continue to get the exponential results that interest and investments have in them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I noticed that a lot of times people will buy a website and then realize that they don't invest in any marketing, they don't invest in content, they don't invest in SEO, they don't have any advertising or marketing that's driving traffic to the site, and the site's not generating traffic. So they will go to a new web company and say, I need a new website, the last one didn't work. And then they go to a new web company when they do the same thing and say, I need a new website, the website didn't work. And they go to another website and say, I need a new website, and that website didn't work.
Jen, do you remember a time in the 90s where you could produce a website and there wasn't 10 search results, so it was easy to put people on Google?
I remember when we were able to buy 100 domain names, get one landing page up, and get them on page 1 of Google, generating leads and opportunities in about 8 days.
It was just like billboards.
It used to be that easy. Now it takes a little bit of work. All right, so websites are just like a dollhouse. We're looking at the front of the dollhouse right now. We log into the website, and now we're in the back office of the website. So WordPress has a dashboard. Inside this dashboard, it gives you access to edit or modify the back of the dollhouse. On the left-hand side, you're going to see all of the different elements you have the ability to edit. You'll see posts, where you have the ability to look at all new categories and tags. Posts are essentially, post equals blog. Post also equals dynamic pages. Post also equals dynamic information that is organized with and displayed by categories, tags, attributes, or more. Have I learned well here? Been studying this for a long time with my friend over here. Okay, post. This is probably one of the most brilliant elements of WordPress framework that exists. And after we get through some of these simple things, Chris is going to dive into posts and show you the power of custom post types and what you can do in here. I had a gentleman last week, he said, well, is it WordPress just a blog? No. WordPress is the most powerful tool you have in your garage.
It runs over 60% of published websites on the internet now. And we were fortunate enough to predict some of that and start using it at 1% market share. I
started calling it the largest content management system in the world before it was the largest content management system in the world, and now it is. You were like, no, not yet. Okay, so that is post. Next is video gallery. You're going to see some plugins. So these are not all standard inside WordPress. When you launch a WordPress, it doesn't come with job board. That is a plugin. If you can imagine being able to plug in lots of different functionality, that's one of the blessings and the curses behind WordPress. The blessing is you can plug in lots of functionality. The curse is you can plug in lots of functionality. So you're on mute.
It's hard to imagine infinite, isn't it?
Yes. So every one of these elements that is extra, not something you might see in your dashboard, is because you may not have that plugin. Now, not all plugins are created equal. Not all plugins are safe. Not all plugins are good. Not all plugins play nice together. Not all plugins work without severe maintenance. Not all plugins are currently supported. Did I say not all plugins are safe? So, if you're working with a web company and they ask you not to install plugins, if they do not release administrative access to the back end of your WordPress, trust me, they're protecting you from you. Once you learn the plugin world and you get to go shopping, it's like DFW shoe store to a woman. There are so many things to choose from. You're like, wow, this can do anything. There are so many plugins. Millions and millions of plugins. Now, like I said, they're not all secure. They don't all play nice together. They will break your website. They will cost you a fortune in repairs and help desk and emergencies and websites down and websites hacked and websites being stolen. So while plugins are amazing, be very, 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 very careful. You need to have a killer hosting, maintenance, management, security team behind you that guides you and tells you whether or not you should use the plugin created from the Ukraine by the guy named Vlad that might scare you once you knew what it did. Okay, so Chris, any input or advice on plugins before we dive too far into that?
Oh man, you know, it's been a learning experience for us too, figuring out what plugins battle with what plugins. WordPress, to get developer market share in its early days, created this brilliant and stupid idea of hooks, actions, and filters. It made it so a second grader with a little bit of programmer knowledge could tap into expanding WordPress, which was great. Write a few lines of code and produce a result. The challenge is the lack of opinionated framework that you get in a robust, 20,000 plus enterprise software. That it does kind of lack the structure to it. So you really have to know what you're trying to achieve, and plugins are so bad sometimes, and even popular ones. Security holes are one of them. You can look up 0 day. Just Google for 0 day WordPress plugin exploits.
Here, I'm going to give you.
They come out daily.
I'm going to give you the screen for a second.
Okay, perfect.
Right, I did it. There you go. So you guys, everything we're telling you is from lessons learned. We started this company in 2006. We've been developing custom and HVAC websites since then. We've built thousands and thousands of websites. We've worked with the top 15 servers that we've played with and broke apart and participated in many of the top theme development groups and organizations. We've built plugins. We continue to build plugins ourselves. We've eliminated using plugins from many of our websites unless we built it because they are a challenge. So from a security standpoint, when you are paying a company for hosting and maintenance and they block you from admin access on your website, Chris will explain a little bit why.
Yeah. So definitely, and I was trying to find a good, actually, exploit UV. WP Scan is in the wild Black Hat security scanner, and it's built to do nothing but iterate your users, tell hackers every plugin that you're using, and automatically search exploit databases for vulnerabilities. These kind of hacking automation tools has made it easy to compromise a WordPress in probably like 20, 30 minutes. So if there's ever a target, so right here, I'm just going to type in, let's see, WordPress, see what shows up and what dates they were published. As you can see, on the 28th of August, exploit, 29th, and these are public. The private repositories that hackers subscribe to, they definitely come out daily. But each plugin, as you can see here, from real estate plugins to BuddyPress, which is actually WordPress's core plugin that they themselves created, there are exploits. So even if it's a trusted author, even if it's a great plugin, millions of downloads, doesn't mean it's secure. And so there are even extra measures on top of running scripts to look for these vulnerabilities, on top of using, you know, the hackers tools themselves to help us identify it. We also use, we use WAFs, web application firewalls, and they're different for different servers and different structures and different environments. So I can't really make a positive recommendation, but one of my favorites with artificial intelligence is open source, and it's called Naxes. It's for Nginx, and it basically looks at your web logs to automatically create rules for what appears to be hacker traffic. So this is one of my favorite ways to proactively prevent unknown WordPress exploits.
So Chris, same thing when they're buying themes. A lot of HVAC companies might have an office manager that says, I can install WordPress, I can go buy a theme. What are some risks? Are the risks for themes? I already know the answer. The risk for buying a $50 theme off of Theme Forest, the same as installing free plugins that look great.
I recommend it to anybody that has some time to just go through it once. It's a good experience, but in reality, a lot of these theme frameworks have been overloaded with so many options to make them versatile that they are very bloated. Bloat is the #1 killer of all paid themes, especially if it's a very popular paid theme that works for multiple industries. The versatility is a double-edged sword.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, so let's go through, and yeah, you can run this. Oh, you're good. Okay.
I got rich data up when you're ready for rich data.
All right, so let's get some basics down. Left-hand side, posts, video gallery, HVAC troubleshooter. That's a plugin that we built. We manage it, we license it, and we provide it free to all of our clients. Media, forms. So let me just throw this out there real quick on forms. Anytime you're looking at putting forms on a website, my personal recommendation, and Chris and I might vary a little bit on this, but I don't think too much. Use a form creator that's not built into WordPress. WordPress has plugins, Contact 7, Gravity Forms. You have to buy a license. You have to make sure that there are no issues with that. You have to test your web forms on a regular basis. If you are using a WordPress plugin to manage your forms, if anything goes wrong with your mailer system, if you have blocks on your mailer system, if your website, you're doing something that causes it to get dinged as a spam and so forth, you could lose your freaking leads. So don't, if you can, okay, don't use WordPress plugin based forms if at all possible, buy a form creator. You can use Zoho Forms. They have a free version. You can use our CRM and online scheduling, our OSS system. Okay, it's $50 a month, and you'll have unlimited forms and an entire customer relationship management system, online scheduling, and a whole bunch of other functionality that you need. You can use type forms. There are hundreds and hundreds of form creators. Use something that is standalone, that is not impacted based on what you do within your email blast, your domain being blacklisted, having some kind of virus or issue. You just never want to mess with lead delivery. Wildly important. Chris,
lead delivery funnels, that is what the whole point of the website is, and relying on a third-party software as a service is a guaranteed way to ensure that your leads are always falling into a bucket regardless. When Jennifer refers to me preferring a self-hosted solution, I think for the majority of people, decoupling into a SaaS that's dedicated to hand you leads is not a bad idea at all. For a developer, somebody like me that likes to create programmatic interactions where things connect to other things, and it allows me to control it a little bit better. So personally, I like control. Same reason personally I like Android, but for everyone else in the world that prefers ease of use, and I've actually switched recently, iPhone. So I'll eat my own words there.
So I agree with Chris. If you need something custom, if you're going to build a custom funnel, if you're going to build forms that do other things, if you're going to have forms utilize hooks, actions, and filters to work within the website to create other things, then make sure you're on a paid license. Make sure you have a killer hosting and maintenance plan. Make sure you have a great security plan. Make sure that you're not doing anything that could compromise your domain. Make sure you're not hiring some team from overseas to give you a shit ton of, a bucket ton of bad backlinks and things that could, that could get you in trouble, because it will impact your leads. Don't do things that'll get you in trouble. So not saying never, I'm just saying if you're going to use forms that are built into your WordPress, please be careful.
If you have internal IT folks, then it wouldn't be a bad idea, because then you can hook up the third-party SMTP delivery service. A little bit more complex, but if you're paying for a SendGrid, or if you're paying for a third-party lead delivery system, and that's connected to your WordPress, and you have your own internal folks that understand SMTP very well, then it's worth hosting internally. It gives you more control, but if not, it would be best to host it on SaaS.
Pay for the system, pay for the system, pay for the system, pay for the system, pay for the system. You either pay for the staff or pay for the system. $50 a month or $5,500 minimum a month.
Yeah, that's a hole in your bucket you don't want.
You do not want to be bleeding leads. Do not want it. Don't trust that everything is going to work all the time on any website. You've got to test. Put on a calendar note that you're going to go test your website, and it doesn't matter if we built it or anyone else built it. Websites fail. All the different elements and all the different pieces. Plugins fail. SMTP delivery fails. Everything can fail. So have a killer maintenance team and make sure you check the things that matter. Your lead delivery. All right, next, pages. Pages are simple. Those are throughout the entire website. When you first start your website, the two primary buckets you're going to concentrate on, media and pages. Media and pages, media and pages, media and pages. You're going to do that until you have one page per service for every service you want to sell, and one page per city for every city you want to sell, unless you're utilizing a sophisticated schematic markup process, which Chris is going to go into in a minute. Comments. If you're not blogging, turn off comments. Period, end, period, exclamation point, period. If you are blogging with authority content, you've got killer content, you're managing your comments, you're responding to consumers, you've got interactive content, you're using video, and so forth, turn on commenting. Testimonials gives you the ability to rotate testimonials, i.e. reviews, within the website. Doesn't have a huge, tremendous value other than visual value to consumers. Promotions gives you the ability to do the same thing with promotions, making sure you can turn on, turn off, and rotate promotions. All of these are technically called custom post types.
No different than a page. Even a page is a custom post type.
Every single one of these is a custom post type. All
I
right.
actually have a good layout drawn in InVision app that kind of illustrates that.
All right. You want it?
Sure.
There you go.
So with WordPress default, you're left with something pretty simple. The objects you have are posts and pages. Pages are just actually with custom post type in themselves. And then you have two ways of organizing that called categories and tags. Everything you post under a post, whether it be news and update, whether it be about technology, think about of them as news categories. And why posts are so powerful with SEO is every time you make a post, kind of like the slider that Jennifer was talking about, it actually creates every category view that lists your post. Say you're listing current events, say you're listing technology, say you're listing, the whole point of posts is to list data or the taxonomy views. Moving into custom post types for real estate, you may have a custom post type for a listing. You saw testimonial. And a lot of times you'll get this metadata or additional data registered with that custom post type, such as number of bathrooms, number of bedrooms, and square feet. As well as custom taxonomies like property type, residential, commercial. Flowing over to an e-commerce, you can have a custom post type of products, and there's plugins built for WordPress to completely transform them into an e-commerce system. Not without a whole ton of configuration, but it's definitely doable. And so in this example, WooCommerce, for example, will register a custom post type called product and give it, oops, my meta hasn't been updated here, but we'll give it price of the product, and other metadata that's appropriate, as well as product tags. You see this in Amazon, such as apparel, so on and so forth. With service providers, pool cleaners, HVAC installers, electrical, plumbing, you have services and you have jobs, and you can even have reviews, testimonials, and other types of custom post types here. So WordPress can be expanded programmatically. What that looks like, and this is a local development software I have running here, we're expanding custom post types into services, reviews, and check-ins for the sake of SEO. And what this will do is when you look at the post itself, and this is just development, what you'll see is a URL structure that specifies that AC maintenance is a service. And that way, search engines and other things can understand that better. And I'll deep dive into that when it's my turn to.
All right. Good stuff. Good stuff. So essentially, you can do anything with WordPress. Bottom line, you can do anything. Just as a matter of time and resources and what you want to put into it. All right. So I'm in the back of the website. I'm going to go to the front of the website, and very quick, we're going to go edit a page. And I'm going to show you how easy it is to be able to modify the page. So you'll notice on here, if I go down AC installation, we're just going to glance at this. This page has, I've already done this in a different webinar and a different training, as I built this during that training. And this is where we were talking about how do you make an interior page look like a home page so that it actually can convert. So for AC installation, we might ask some questions such as, did you know we offer a 5-year maintenance agreement with the purchase of a new high efficiency air conditioning system? You might embed that into your text. You'll also see little things. This is our, this is CI Web Groups plugin where we've built an HVAC terminology area. So anytime we use any terms from the HVAC terminology plugin, then you're going to get a definition on hover. It's going to highlight those particular words and the definitions will pop up. So this happens automatically just because of the plugin. Then we dive into no heat, no air. Is this prevention? Do we need a tune-up, or easy maintenance? Do you want to set it and forget it? We're trying to address the issues and figure out what the problem is before we dive into installation. Then we may have something, we make this convenient, may offer some kind of a promotion, give them, this is also another plugin built by CA Web Group, which is our troubleshooting system. And this plugin was designed because a lot of our clients were getting negative reviews because they went out on a job, changed the battery in a thermostat, client was pissed because they got a bill for it. Next thing you know, we're dealing with a reputation management problem for the negative review. So once we developed the plugin for troubleshooting, all of a sudden the number of negative reviews for simple repair things a consumer could have done internally went down. So we were able to reduce that. And we were also able to see that consumers were actually bookmarking our clients' websites, which is really interesting because it's not that sexy of a website to usually bookmark.
Right, our return visitor rate went up.
Absolutely. So you can see we kind of move around. So we have some troubleshooting or kind of using these different kinds of layouts and colors. Let me show you how easy this is to do. So we're going to log into a page that has not been designed yet. We talked a little bit about the decklist pages. So you might have a placeholder in your website, well, good intent to add content, just haven't got it to it. So it might have a web form on here that says we provide decklist AC service in the following areas. Here's a web form to contact us. Again, that can last for a little while, but will hurt your domain authority if it resides too long. So I go to the page I want to edit at the top. As long as I'm logged in, you're going to see those editing options. They're going to show up right here at the very top of the screen, up there. And we're going to click edit page. Depending on what kind of a website you have, what plugins are installed on it. If you're in our newest framework, you're going to see edit with Elementor. If you're in an older framework, it might have the WordPress editor. If you're in a really old website, if you haven't had a website rebuilt, or we started building your website 2 years ago, you might have other kind of editing functionality built into that website. It's constantly evolving and constantly changing. We're just going to go here. We're going to get rid of everything we have on the site. I'm going to update that here. Once you're on page, if you're editing in this area, you this is one option, which if you have heavy text and not a lot of graphics, not a lot of customization, you can absolutely drop content here. If you are copying and pasting text from a Word document, make sure you navigate between these two toggles here. The text toggle will strip the code that you snagged from Word or Google Docs or Google Drive or somebody else's website, which I know you're not stealing from anyone else's website and creating duplicate content. But if you were to borrow a chunk of content, you are also grabbing the code. So if you paste content here, for example, I'm going to grab this. Let me close these. And we're going to go here and I paste this. This looks like I just grabbed text, but when I click on text, it's going to show you what I actually grabbed. This is going to make Chris crazy. Every time you copy and paste from something to your WordPress, know that you are snagging all their code, even if you can't see it. Go ahead, Chris. I know this hurts your soul right now.
Delete it. It hurts looking at it. This code is when you copy and paste, you can just be really careful. Make sure to paste it in the text side, then click back over the visual. I can't tell you how many support tickets we get for that kind of stuff.
Yes, we get a tremendous amount of support tickets because they want it to look like this or because they copied it from Word, literally anything. If you copy and paste, you got to paste into text. Oh, this is what it looks like when I pasted it into text. This is what it looked like when I pasted it into visual. When you copy and paste, you're grabbing the code. I will delete that so you don't flip. Okay, now from here, within your WordPress, when you're in text, you're going to have code functionality. So if I want to make something strong, I would say a word up. And I would go, that's the limit of my HTML. All right, I'm done for the day. No, just kidding. So this is going to be quick links to simple HTML code if you want to create a list item or you want to create bold. Bold is strong. Emphasis is something you want to highlight to Google. LI, this is a list item if I want to create a list item. Most of the time when you want to start editing, you're going to go right back and you're going to use a WYSIWYG editor that you're familiar with inside any WordPress or any Word document. This looks just like Word. If you open this toggle toolbar, it will open up everything but the kitchen sink. That's what they used to actually say over this. And this is going to give you the ability to strike through, underline, change text colors, which I prefer you don't, change fonts, which I prefer you don't. The last thing I want to see is somebody going in here, changing this to a heading 3 and coloring it pink. So Chris, at this time, let's explain global style sheets and why you should leave headings and text colors and inline styling alone.
A lot of people like to get creative with font sizes, colors, and there's an unintentional result. One of the things that Jennifer said the first time I remember her seeing it, she says, "It looks like a clown threw up on the page." And that stuck with me for over a decade. And as you know, we've been in marketing for quite some time, you know, learning proper terminology. And a nicer way to say it is we want to achieve brand consistency. We want, when you hear da 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 da, you know exactly what it is. It hit that neuroplasticity in your brain where you've heard it 1,000 times. If you want to maintain stickiness with your customers and top of mind, understanding of the way the brain works, and there's a reason in marketing why they call it branding. You're literally burning an impression of your brand into their mind, and brand extends past a logo. Brand is a culture. Brand is represented in consistency, whether it's a flyer that you hand out to make sure it has the same font that you use everywhere else. When people see your colors, they know just by on the tone exactly what it is. You start to create this neurological resonance in their head. And the importance of doing that is so critical. And not to mention, it just looks cleaner when you have this global configuration built into your content publishing platform that ensures a level of consistency. And so that's what we try to strive for when we're building sites, is to make sure that we first go through all of the global options and make sure that that consistency has been programmed into the basic development.
Perfect. So anything related to color, font sizes, and text is all done at a global level. And if you've got a good web team, you should never have to touch it.
Yeah, you don't want 6 different shades of red because you pick somewhere close on the color wheel every time.
Yes, absolutely. All right. So that is an example. You guys can use any of these elements. You can swap these out, change them, and so forth. This is just a standard WYSIWYG editor. Next, on the right-hand side, you're going to notice publishing. This, whether you're on a blog post or a custom post type or you're on a page, they're all the same. It gives you the ability to publish. You can choose pending review or draft. If you're working with a marketing team and you need to have things reviewed or you need to get the owner's review before something goes live, you can always look at pending review and you can sort and organize all those pages like that. You also have the ability to change your visibility. So you can make it public. You can also password protect it. If you've got a team that you want to have access to employee documents or forms or things that are not necessarily made available to the public, but you want your team to be able to access them when they're out in a consumer's home, you can absolutely click that password protection, type your word. Ours is fancy dancy. We'll use password, click OK, and you now have a password protected page. Anything you put on this page can only be found once they enter that password in. And you have the ability to also make private. It's going to tell you when it was published. It's also going to utilize, for this, we're utilizing a plugin on this particular website called Yoast SEO, which is giving us a grade of this page from a readability standpoint, making sure that the content is accurate, clean, and free of errors or issues in text and or grammar. How does text and or grammar impact domain authority on websites, Chris?
The text is really important. Choosing the right grammar and vernacular is critical for something Google calls semantic search. It's kind of a big topic in of itself to cover. It's definitely worth understanding what semantic search is, but in layman's terms, it's Google's ability to understand your intent on your page So when using grammar, I mean, I love Grammarly personally, even though it records everything you type. It's a great tool to, you know, sacrifice your privacy for. It will ensure that everything is contextually correct, because what's reading your website is Google's artificial intelligence. So the grammar and the way that you compose your sentence with keywords will help establish your relevancy to Google.
Absolutely. All right, you guys. So I'm going to go grab some content, not because this is something you should do. I just need some text right now. So do not do this. I'm going to go snag from. All right. So let me delete this, and we're going to jump in. First, I want to show you this word count down here. One of the most important things to know on each one of your pages: what's your word count? Why? Because whoever's sitting on page one, number one, has specific word count on their ductless AC service page. And if you're trying to take over that spot, you need to consider having a higher word count, having more backlinks, having better content, having a higher popularity ranking, having that web page shared more times. Remember, every page on your entire website is graded and evaluated individually, as is the sum of your whole or entire domain authority. Each individual page matters. When Google is analyzing, should I make you the expert to consumers who are searching for ductless AC installation or service in this particular city, they're looking at this page to determine, are you an expert? If you want to sell something and you have no content or no page, how can you be an expert? Most everything about marketing is technically really logical when you think about it. Really logical. Google wants to know, are you relative? So if I want to highlight that I am a ductless expert, relative means I have content on my page related to ductless AC installation. I might use variations such as mini split or split system, because those are other.
That will help with the semantic search, exactly.
Absolutely. So essentially what we need to do is we need to get this page count higher than the page you want to replace. Everybody always says, how much content do I need on the page? How about this? The easy way to look, go to Google, do a search for the term you want to be. If you want to be page one, number one for ductless AC installation in Los Angeles, California, go find the first HVAC company that shows in that search. Look at what they have on their website from a content standpoint for ductless AC installation. Just start with that as a minimum. Is that going to get you on page one of Google? No. Will it help put you in the running so you can play that game? Yes. It's kind of like owning a bat if you're on a baseball team. If you don't have a bat and you don't have a glove and you don't have a ball, it's really hard to play baseball. So your content is your bat. Okay. Your backlinks is your ball, and your social trust and or popularity / reputation, that's your mitt. You got to have all three to play ball minimum, which is an SEO, reputation, social trust, link building strategy, all combined. Yes, sir.
I was thinking in priority, you know, quality content is definitely the top metric. Then content frequency, meaning how often you're doing it, is the next closest. But a very close third one, a metric that's been considered more and more, and kind of rhymes with content quality, is the user's time on page. Google's looking at how long especially if you're using Google Analytics, it is very bidirectional. So it's telling Google how long people are spending on your site. And the biggest and best way to exploit that metric to really jump up the search result is video. So if you have a video on your for every post that you publish, then the user has like a 80% probability of staying on 4 times longer, or some stupid number like that. And so that number will really help with your SEO. And more importantly, and just actually a good way to verify this is search for any news, any recent news. And I will pay anybody $100 that can find a blog post that's been published by any credible news network that doesn't have a video. when you get into that level of competition where you're competing with news sites that come up with content publication frequency of every other second, you got to imagine Google has crawlers that are dedicated to living on those websites. And to get that level of dedication from Google's crawlers, time on page is definitely critical, which is why I guarantee you'll not find a major news outlet that shows up on a search that doesn't have a video published with every single post they publish.
Absolutely. So that's part of continuing to make that interior page more and more like a home page.
Yep.
Adding assets. So one, get the content, the number of words on the page that Google is going to crawl over your top competitors. If you're in a high competition area, you're looking at 1,000 to 1,500 words on the page. If you're in a low competition area, you might get away with 500 words on the page. This is your word count. So sometimes people will spend all their time adding new pages to their website. If you have an old page that's sitting on page 2 of Google, not making you a lick of money, and it's only got 500 words on the page, add another 1,000 words onto an existing page over adding an additional page. Keep adding on to existing pages. That's what's going to help your the individual page grow. So I'm going to open this up with Elementor. We're going to dive in to custom layout and or design of this page. This is what a page looks like when it's just simply filled with text. It's not eye candy. We'll just put it like that. So
people will leave immediately if they look at that. Yes,
they're gone. This is Google brought them here because you have a lot of content on the page and it was well marketed, and then consumers left. High bounce rate, no conversions. So how we would break this out, this is how simple this is. One, let's create a couple containers. And first I'm going to add a video container. We'll add that over on the right hand side and change this out for the video that I just grabbed off the other page. Second, on this side, we're going to add an image, maybe a graphic or a promotion. So we'll go, and I'm just going to grab this for now, and we're going to insert. That is pulling from your media library. I know this is going to drive Chris crazy with all of the different, I'm going to have challenges throughout this whole thing. All right, so we'll stretch that out a little bit. Now I'm going to add another container, and this one, we're going to make it a 3-part container, and we're going to jump in, and we want to separate this out into 3 different things. So let's use a call to action box. We'll drop one here, and we'll make another copy of this call to action box, and we'll drop it here, and another copy of the call to action box, and we're going to drop it here. So we may turn this into when do you need repair, when should you replace, and what's high efficiency. You think of the top 3 things. You guys are subject matter experts in your world. Whatever the topic is of the page, think about what are the top 3 questions that are asked. What are the top 3 reasons why people buy? What are the top 5 things that people don't buy? What are the top 5
things they're afraid of?
Yeah, what are the top 5 things they're afraid of? What are the top 5 things they need to know before they make a decision? What are the top 5 options they consider? Top 3 options they can consider. It'll be easier for you guys to build pages if you think about this in top 3, top 5, top things to avoid, things to do, things to check, things to know, things to buy, things to, you get my drift.
On the top of their mindset, and depending on your demographic, is going to be speed, quality, and cost. The situation can sometimes dictate whether or not it's speed, if they're dying of heat, but typically in some demographics, cost is the only thing. Oh my gosh, I can't afford this, and so speed, and then quality if they've been screwed over, and so one of those 3 things are going to be on the top of their mind, and building the page out to speak to those three points is pretty critical for what we've experienced success in interior page building.
Absolutely. So there's other things you guys can do to keep people on the page as well. So you could add a custom form. You could put a form on here, such as, I'll show you an example of this one. One, we got people on this page, which there's technically no content on this page. This page needs content. So we went the opposite with here. We added the video first, we added the form second, the content needs to join the page. but this is a good start. So this is a video. You can at least catch them for about 1.5 minutes. And then next they can go into a form. This form is going to ask them questions that's specific to whatever the topic is. So this is asking, do you want a virtual comfort advisor? I want to talk about a split system. It's a gas. I'm going to be replacing 2 different systems. It's in the attic, and the size is a 2-ton. And yes, I'm ready to replace it. Energy bills is a priority. High efficiency is important. So web forms can be incredibly valuable to any page when you couple them with content that's legitimate to the form. Most websites, when you go there, have contact us. One form, generic, doesn't have any value related to or any questions related to the topic that they're on. Just says contact us.
Relevancy.
Yes, no, there's no relevancy. So if you create a budget for, or time for, or a plan for, don't care, everybody's got time or money, to create specific forms relative to each service on your site, you're going to increase your conversions. If I'm on the page and I want to talk to a virtual comfort advisor about replacing my system, I don't want you to come into my home. That's important. I'm not comfortable with that. This entire page is about hiring a virtual comfort advisor and me sharing with you what's important to me. However, if I move over to the IAQ page, this is going to be entirely different. This has a quiz that's regarding the air you breathe. So we have a chat bot, and this little chat bot is very specific. It's not one chat bot in the entire system or site that talks about everything. This is saying, what's your name? Hi, Jennifer. Am I interested in having air filters delivered to the house monthly? Yes, absolutely. That would be so much easier. I totally don't want to go. Do I need UV lights? No, I have no idea if I do. But you'll notice the questions. Am I on a planned maintenance program? No, not right now. Every one of these questions or assessments is related to the page I'm on. Check out Clean Comfort products. Let's chat. Does anyone suffer from allergies in the house? Yes. Then it'll drill into launching the assessment. The assessment is a clean air assessment. What's going on at home? We've got flood issues and mold issues. And then we're going into IAQ is really important. Maybe I have a child with asthma. Yes, we have asthma. Yes, we have elderly people in the home. No, I don't think so. You get my drift. Is every single page on a website can have a form that's specific to the problems and solutions for the page the consumer is on. Imagine being able to get them to take a quiz, an assessment, or fill out a form. A, you just got a new lead and you know a lot about them. B, you had them stay on the page for 2, 3, 4 minutes to complete the entire quiz. Your time on page just doubled. They watched a video and they filled out this really custom form. Now you're sitting in a position where you've got great content on the page, an excellent SEO data, and you have consumer interaction and engagement on the page and high quality scores when it comes to time on page. People are really interested when they get there. You can't really get a better group of things than that, other than, and they bought whatever it is they came for. That would be the final, I got paid, would be the final stage to that. Any thoughts on that, Chris?
And then shared it with all their friends.
Yes, and then share it with all their friends. So at the bottom of this page, you could go in here and we're gonna go add, let's see here. We may add a star rating. We might add a countdown. We might add some social icons and tell them to share with their friends.
Each one of these has a goal associated with it. And really to help understand your marketing budget, where it's going, is you should attribute a financial value with every type of conversion. Even if it's For example, if 1 out of 4 people that call you for a service close, you know, your potential value of the lead would be 25% of whatever the average closing cost is. And so attributing value to each goal based on a certain percent of these people who share it with their friends, reach an average number of people of this, and so on, you can quantify each element that you're adding to the page as applies to your marketing effort, so that you can actually calculate what your return on investment is.
All right, so
Goal setting is really important.
I'm gonna build some elements in here, and you can talk about each one of them, how you could use them.
All right. What I really love about this page builder, Jen, is the engagement effect. Most of these elements that you're adding are interactive elements, and you know, require you to look at them. When you see a number ticking down like that ticker, it really grabs the eye's attention. And as you get really, really advanced with designing the page, you can start to use the subconscious. So you can use hot and warm colors to control the user's eyeball. If you get a chance, Google for Z pattern UI and read a couple of articles about the Z pattern, because it's taking advantage over how the eye naturally moves. And so that you, when you're designing your interior pages, that you can use movement and hot and warm colors to take advantage of a natural progression of the how the eye moves. And also what you want to do with, like what Jen's adding to the page right now with these interior links. If you can interest the person who scrolled down to a certain part of the page in looking at other elements of the page, if they're not a buyer, that in itself, the average pages per session is its own version of a conversion. So if you can increase your average pages per session, you're increasing your SERP position so that you can show up above your competitors. So whether it be interior links that you're adding, interactive elements, all of them help either keep the user on the page longer or keep the user looking at more pages if they're not ready to capitalize on a call to action. But trickled throughout your experience should be calls to action. Those calls to action should be relevant to the content that's around it.
Now I'm just having fun.
And that was a really fast layout, Jennifer. I also like to hide the search engine text, like Jennifer is doing, embedded throughout the page, and usually more towards the bottom. Having large chunks of text towards the top or above the fold is a waste of that real estate. Capitalizing on the human eyeball on the top part, and then the machine's virtual artificial intelligence eyeball towards the middle and bottom is preferred. That way you're pleasing both the robots and the people. And Jennifer's also adding a lot of headings. Headings are looked at when you're looking at the quality score of a page, having items that are speaking to the contextual relevance of the buyer mindset. For example, follow us for special promotions. That's Jennifer using the mindset of somebody who is looking. So, and how that translates to semantic search is Google will understand the mindset of the buyer based on previous searches. So they may have said free AC estimate or repair, or inexpensive AC repair options, or. And so the more that you use those headings within the relevant areas of the section, so you have a heading text that explains your special promotion, and then you have headings under that that explain that it's for veterans, for teachers. Google actually knows who the person is that's searching if they're logged in. Around 70% of all Google SERP results are called personalized results, which means that if I search Google for something and you search for Google for something and we're logged into our Gmail accounts, Google is going to provide us with different results. So the understanding of everything being an absolute ladder is an incorrect perspective. Google will even, whenever Google releases new algorithms, for its semantic search, that they will test giving a certain number of users, their users, because again, their customer is the searcher. So they want to give the searcher the best result possible. So they're going to actually test out several websites automatically by giving you some traffic and seeing how those searchers perform on it. And you can reverse into this through a free tool called Google Search Console. It is the outlier version of Google Analytics. So it allows you to see the top of funnel where the demand exists, not just where your solution of the supply exists, because all of this is just supply and demand. There you go. Affordable pricing for new ductless air conditioning systems. Couldn't have come up with a better heading myself. That will really, really help. And so also understanding your buyers. A lot of people are around naval bases. A lot of HVAC companies are around certain demographics. Maybe they do want to help really promote their brand culture of providing first responders with the best possible experience and price. Call it a gimmick or call it your brand culture. Allowing your page designer to reflect what that is will help the local search algorithm, which is basically what we're referring to every time we say SERP results. It'll help your local search algorithm show up to those very, very specific people. And when it's time to dive into structured data, we can see more advanced techniques on how to amplify that as well.
All right, you guys. So.
Wow, that was really fast, Jennifer.
It is not hard to do what's right.
It's like Legos, isn't it?
That's it. So you guys will get more comfortable with the more you play with it.
Can you show them the breakdown to mobile on the lower left?
Absolutely.
So designing this for other devices and layouts is pretty straightforward. You can choose a new size and completely rescaffold your layouts. So if Jennifer wanted, she could have those 3 columns stacked if she preferred stacking columns. Or you can completely hide items that are only available on the desktop if you don't believe that that would be a good experience for somebody searching mobile. And so that section that Jennifer's on, if she clicks the blue section that's wrapping it, she can click on advanced and then choose responsive. Go ahead and, yeah, there you go. And then, and then on the left, choose advanced and tab responsive. And you can choose to hide each one of these elements depending on what devices are being used. So you can really create unique experiences. Because the buying behavior of somebody doing a local search on a mobile is a lot different than the buying behavior, at least after us looking at thousands and thousands of websites data. We do see a significant difference in how people behave on mobile versus desktop.
Of course, I like to get all fancy with all the stuff that causes it to slow down.
Yeah.
And then we'll move to mobile. And you can get a feel for how we might want to reposition these for mobile as well.
Yeah, and you can make it look and feel more like an app, and just a lot of options for configuring it.
I want the video to be on top.
Yeah, and you can reverse the order that columns stack when it breaks down. There's a lot of functionality there.
This is entirely different than this.
Yeah.
That's why design is wildly important, making sure you have conversion tools to allow people to connect with you no matter where they go on the website. If you offer them the ability to live chat and text, you got, it doesn't matter if there's conversion tools within the site, especially on a mobile device.
Before they even contact you, they already have decided in their head whether they know it or not, how they're going to try to contact you. And it's baked into their behaviors.
All
You
right.
want to make yourself you're an option for all behaviors.
So it's that simple. You need the text, you need promotional graphics, you need to figure out what actions do you want to take, you need to figure out what audience you want to serve, you need to figure out to have the video created. All of these assets kind of come together. You have content, you have headers, you have call to actions, you have promotions, you have audience, who we serve, where we serve, what they get, what to avoid, what to consider, what to buy. All of these things create a sales page. And the more that each interior page looks like the home page, the stronger your website will be. All
You're
right.
going to give me 5 minutes for structured data, aren't you?
No, you got 15. The rest of the webinar is yours. I'm going to stop sharing and we're going to move over to structured data. This is a WordPress training, first of all. However, for those of you who want to own a WordPress and compete, if you want to own a website and win, if you want to own a website and get ranked, if you want to own a website and sell, if you want to own a website and convert, you have to think about structured data. It is the #1 topic buzzing in the digital marketing and web space. It is one of the #1 initiatives by Google right now, and I hope you can focus on understanding this enough, the real world applications of this, seeing this in your real world environment, that you start turning on that reticular activator and seeing structured data as you're navigating the internet, as you're finding things to buy, as you're finding things to search. Once your reticular activator turns on and you start connecting with what structured data is and how it infiltrates your entire life, then as a business owner, you will start paying attention to why it is an important strategy to invest in. All right, Chris, don't scare
Sticking
people.
with their philosophy at CI Web Group of always being an option and sticking with a store analogy of doing so, we want to make sure that you are everywhere the consumer's eyeballs are. That doesn't change. What is changing is where consumers' eyeballs are. And I'm going to use a real estate example, but I'm absolutely positive we can draw some direct correlations to that of other directories or other listings of service businesses.
Let's look at
Including
gas and hotels. Let's look at hotels and gas and airlines and all the things
the
everybody.
way buying decisions are changing. The concept you want to maintain is stay in front of your users' eyeballs. So how Google is improving users' experience, and it sounds a little crazy because ultimately they are taking people away, visitors away by doing this, but no different than the way Amazon's doing it. Amazon offers a single interface where people can purchase whatever they want. The brand matters less, and it's a fulfillment network. And the fact is if you sell products, you should put your stuff on Amazon. Just trying to house your stuff all in your own store is the behavior of buyers is to stop walking into stores, even if it's a digital storefront. This happened in the late 80s through the 90s as people started walking through digital storefronts instead of physical storefronts. And now the storefront is changing to a universal storefront, Amazon. We call this the Amazon effect and the flattening of the supply chain. And please Google about Amazon flattening supply chain to understand the philosophical difference of bringing the buying decision closer to the consumer through the interface that they're already using. So how Google's doing this, and I just figured I could pull several pieces of data. If you have nutrition data, you can actually represent that in a structured format that shows up like this. If you have product data or if you're a physical location, you see these Google business listings. Yes, Google does offer a business listing interface, but to get the enhanced results that are offered through this, you have to offer up the microdata or rich text or schema markup data on your site. So as you can see, whether it be product listings or movie tickets or jobs, and Jennifer actually showed a job plugin to be able to syndicate that properly to these third-party networks. When I go to maps.google.com and I type in hotel, Google has intercepted the hotel's information and data and brought the interface available to me here, so I can actually make my purchase through the Google interface because they've fed the data to me in a structured way. And so this is happening more and more. And so if I look up on Google, if I type in flights to Seattle from Dallas, every industry from insurance to products and services, Google wants to be able to control the interface for. Ultimately, they don't want them on your website, but that's for right now. That's not a problem yet for the industry, so because it's happening industry by industry. So it's important to understand where Google's at on their pathway of being able to syndicate data, but it's also important to understand the temporary care that's being offered. And so the instructions for this are found on schema.org on how to provide that data. And so each object, including your website itself, has a listing type. An HVAC business type is of the type, what serves up in Google is local business. Google is not to the point where it understands the object HVAC business. However, when we do a structured test where we look at the web page with a structured data testing tool, by the way, you can Google for this, Google structured data testing tool, it's free. And all you do is put your URL in here and it'll tell you the objects that it detects. And inside of this object, it actually did detect the HVAC local business. So Google gets to see your data like this. And so if you're not serving up your latitude and longitude, then you're not taking advantage of local search, because this is what tells Google that the person searching for it is standing next to you. So this structured data is, I can't begin to emphasize its infinite importance. And there are tons of plugins on WordPress that can help you do this. Going back to the example where we've created a custom post type of a service on this example, we have included the registration of the service as a custom object, but more importantly, we've also made it possible to include in this metadata every piece of data that a service requires. So if you look at the service entity right here, we have aggregate rating and all of these other pieces of data that we can feed Google. And if you look at what Google does with that data to help improve the how well your listing stands out, is it will include a very colorful warm color star rating. So if your schema is done properly, you can get 2 times the number of clicks for the same demand, even if you're the 3rd or 4th position, because yours shows up with stars. And so incorporating the service object with the aggregate data listing object inside of this is allowing us to expand the WordPress functionality into the ability to provide all of this data, including, and we've actually linked it up for our developers to easily click on this and see what it's expecting to see. Because the data that it produces has to look like this. You have to give it an item scope, tell it what object you're looking at. So all of this is built into the raw code that consists of your website. I haven't found a theme available on ThemeForest or anywhere else you can buy a WordPress theme that will actually produce this data to take advantage of structured markup. And in the next several years, people will start populating the marketplace with more and more of this. So it should become more available. But what's important as to take away from this is Google understands the first time it saw something. That's where it gets content authority. You see these buzzwords being thrown around like original content and content authority. They actually mean something. And so when you look at original content or you look up content authority and what that means for your domain authority, page authority, and domain authority, that will increase these metrics as Google understands them. Going back to what Jennifer said about Google is just replicating what was already offline. So when people talk about you, and if nobody talked about your business, period, you wouldn't have any customers. So if you look at Google's base PageRank algorithm, the way that it works is if people are backlinking you, say B is CNN.com. Of course, every other website references it, but very rarely does CNN reference you. And when CNN.com references you, C, you get a bidirectional backlink. And that's basically a popularity contest saying this popular kid in the class talked about me, so I'm getting this page rank and authority. So the way this is done in a way that Google understands you is once you receive that backlink, Google will crawl you and understand all of the relevant data. So if you're the first to publish the data in a format that Google understands before other people do, it's as important as your domain age, which your domain age, you can't change it. It's the first time Google saw your domain registered. And if you're registering your domain, a little tidbit of information, please register it for 5 to 7 years at least, because Google wants to understand that you're not a pop-up website registered for 1 year. Yes, I understand it's going to cost you $50 more to register for longevity, but this tells you that Google that you're interested in the business. And so going around with original content, content authority, and formatting this data in the fastest way that you can to get it to produce a result that says to Google that yes, you are an HVAC business, the better. And so what this looks like done on Countryside, another one of our customers, is this isn't quite understood yet by Google. So these reviews, because of how we're listing them, isn't quite understood by Google yet. However, if you go look at Google's roadmap, they are set to understand these in the next month and a half. Google comes up with updates to its algorithm literally every day. Larger updates come out once a month, but providing this in structured data format will get you more results. Looking at how that looks like to the consumer, this is Countryside Heating and Cooling. These are the reviews that we're aggregating, and Google does and will understand these as service reviews, especially as we finish our more powerful plugin that extrapolates on the amount of data behind these. Item reviewed is a thing. The thing reviewed in this item is Countryside Heating and Cooling Solutions. This is the business being reviewed. Our future plugins that we're developing will allow the service itself to be reviewed and allow star ratings in the search page to start coming up again. Google did remove something that allowed this older methodology of reviewing the business itself. So we're having to cat and mouse with Google and improve the actual market data that's being published. But the good news is all of our customers do receive the updates as we produce updates to our plugin. So their results to Google, without them doing any work, is constantly being improved by us changing the format that this gets fed up to Google in without them having to change the actual content. Jennifer, did that cover structured data pretty well?
Absolutely. So I know we're going to run a little bit over, and for those of you that have to leave now, no worries. We'll clip this up so it's in smaller bite-sized containers. I do want Chris to show one more thing, which is an example of how we can use custom post types to create a unique experience for air conditioning services. We'll just look at the front end. We won't dive into the back end, just so you can see what WordPress can do. You guys, building a website is much more complex than it seems when you pay somebody a few $1,000 and say, let's start a website. It looks easy. You can build a website, an easy website on your own. You can go to Wix, you can go to GoDaddy, you can buy a template, a page builder template, and you guys can produce a website anywhere. That's not what's important. Like I said earlier, is building a structured website that is used as a tool to grow your business is what's important, not owning a website. So can the average Joe build a website with the necessary structured elements without having a background in SEO and coding and security and everything else? My answer is no. You can't hire Bob to build your website because the likelihood of Bob knowing design, he went to art school, and development, he's been coding in his garage and got in trouble in elementary school, to understanding SEO and having an architect's brain, or database engineering, or security. He's been hacking since he was 5 and changing grades in middle school. The laundry list is huge, and we happen to have one of the only people I've met in history that actually has traits of a mother's child that I didn't know could be birthed into one human. So, Chris, we're lucky to have you. And
brain damage. It's all brain damage.
most of the time, you don't get this in one human. It requires a team of 20 with subject matter experts in various different things, different personality types. Typically, moms don't give birth to all of these different traits in a single human. That being said, let's take a look at the e-commerce application, and you can see what's possible inside of WordPress when it comes to if you really want to get advanced and turn your website into a very customized store. So we have options where we can plug in a store. This gives you the idea of the power of WordPress. Shoot.
So this is actually using location data. It doesn't necessarily have to be a mobile device to allow location to be on. So having that location, I can click that and just get my zip code. However, these guys in California, so I got to use a different zip code. And basically what this does is it looks at what's behind the scenes here is a bunch of products. But effectively, this is a point-and-click filter that we've created that will allow the products to be reduced. Because let's be frank, a lot of the people these days are changing to, you can buy your house by pointing and clicking, you can buy your car by pointing and clicking, and there is a consumer out there that thinks they can configure their own HVAC. And so this is our best job to help appease that mindset. And hopefully they don't know what they don't know. And somewhere in here, they're gonna want a little bit of help. If that's not the case, or maybe they were a previous contractor, being able to deep dive into relevant products, and this is under development, so you're gonna miss a lot of pictures and so on. But it really does show the ability to filter what would have been a whole ton of products, right? Pages and pages and pages of products, to the 2 relevant ones that actually make sense, with all of the different efficiencies. In future versions, we'd love to use a manual J calculation. For right now, we're letting the consumer choose, but this should get a little bit better. There are dynamic options, so if you should go down the ductless mini split option, choosing a number of rooms, as well as choosing a configuration for your rooms. And this entire process, the entire thing is really just to produce simple choices for the user. And this is all being done through custom post types. I'm going to log into the backend engine just for a split second because I just want to show the custom taxonomies. We saw earlier that with this system that you could have for an e-commerce, you can have product categories and product tags. For this system, we did a lot more. We registered several custom taxonomies, including quality, efficiency ratings, product class, a lot of different ways to tag these products. So as you're looking through the full e-commerce, which by the way does full inventory management, as well as tax calculations, shipping calculations, all configured for this customer. And so when you dive into any product, whether it's the thermostat or whatever else, you can choose where you'd like this product to show up. And if you imagine it being Amazon or something else, all these different product tags would appear based on how the consumer is choosing to experience the user journey.
Perfect. Thank you, Chris.
Yep.
All right, let me share my screen. So you guys, that is an example of what you can do. Of course, start with the basics essentially and work your way into continuing to improve what you guys are doing. I want to make sure you have access to our digital marketing guide. Let me reload that page and I will share it with you. 2 seconds.
Real takeaway here is that WordPress can really do anything, and that can be a very big double-edged sword.
Yes, there are pros and cons to everything, right? And just make sure you're working with people who are ahead of the game, that are predicting where Google is going, that are reading the future, not the past.
Ooh, my favorite, tell them what they get when they buy backlinks. By the bulk, because you can still buy it to improve your SEO.
Yes, there's 900,000 different things that people will pitch to you that sounds good. Not a good idea.
They've been selling it for the longest time, and to hammer everything's a nail. So if you find an SEO company, or you find it, they'll try to perform all services like a Leatherman. I mean, heck, even GoDaddy tried. They're an awesome registrar. I mean, I prefer Google, but like they'll offer you hosting, they'll offer you SEO, they'll offer you anything. Because you have the buyer.
Right. There are a ton of different companies and tools that are now not doing as well in their primary service. Maybe they sold traditional advertising and media, so now they want to go digital. Doesn't mean they know what they're doing. Or maybe they sold domain name registrars and they can sync you into adding on $250 a month to include SEO on a website that can't be optimized or will never rank.
Well, in the same breath, though, because I have seen in Yelp and these other big guys where they have these team of juniors that can just come fresh out of college. Every once in a while, you'll get like a badass that's been doing it himself. Sorry for the language. That has been doing it himself forever, and you just got like a 1 out of 100. And I've seen that. I've seen people have really good SEO coming from one of the big boxes, but it's like very, 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 very rare.
Absolutely. So you guys, take time to dive into this, and as uncomfortable and it might feel like it's not relevant or not important or too much or over your head or whatever your feelings are that are not helping you get any further, but the more you understand the fundamentals, the better relationship you're going to have with your marketing team. You're going to understand the complexities. You're going to understand why they need certain things. You're going to understand how come it takes a certain amount of time. You're going to understand why the costs are or the time is what it is. And you're going to start asking better questions to whoever you're working with. You're going to start deep diving in and asking things that could have prevented you from burning through cash building 9 websites 9 times and never getting anywhere. So we want to avoid the rocking chair syndrome. That is always being busy, always moving, never going anywhere. We need you to move, make progress. We need each year to stack upon and stack upon. We need compounding interest impacts on your results, where the dollar you spend today is actually worth more a year from now. With that, you guys download this guide. This is our HVAC marketing guide. It's been updated for 2021, depending on when you're watching this video. And it is updated constantly with new promotions and products and services as we test things in our own environment and have positive feedback. We roll those programs out to our customers, and you can access all of them from one document. Just text CI Web. CI Web, if you're in the United States, text it to 704-703-5335. If you're in Canada, it is 289-201-5282. This is the HVAC and plumbing contractor marketing guide. Of course, it also works with electricians and solar and so forth. This entire guide includes products, services, pricing, and promotions. Completely transparent. You guys know what you're getting into. And as always, it's completely complimentary to set up a strategy session anytime you're ready to grow. That's what we love doing. We've got a team of resources who are expert in all of these things and have a team behind them, supporting them and executing it. They would love to meet with you, as would we. On behalf of Chris and I, thank you so much for all of your time today. We appreciate you, and we look forward to seeing you on the next webinar.
See you on a strategy session soon.
Thanks, you guys.
Bye.